Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Hillary Roberts, alongside my co-host, Jason Walla.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, we haven't been together for a minute.
I know.
You know, band's back together.
Yay!
It's so nice to see you.
Reunited, and it feels so good.
Yeah, that was very good. And you also just had a very big milestone. You just celebrated 24 years.
24 years. And I remember when it was just trying to make it through 24 hours and minute by minute. And
let's talk about that real quick. I mean, what like in an overview, I mean, what has been the most beautiful thing about your sobriety in the last 24 years?
Not wanting to drink or drug so bad like a vampire, and not wanting to die, and not having PTSD nightmares every single night from abuse. And, you know, even more than that, I have gotten gifts that I never could imagine that I could get, like having a feeling of yay in this life, and being able to have a beautiful relationship with a good man, and having wonderful friendships, and being a woman of integrity and honesty and transparency, and all the things that I couldn't even come close to imagining that God could do in my life. And most importantly, having a relationship with God, which I hated that word when I got sober.
No, it's been amazing to get to know you. And I just want to say how incredible it is to have you as a friend, as somebody that's been around. I mean, you help so many people. You're such an inspiration, such a motivation, and you know, just an incredible person. So it's been amazing. You know I didn't know you all those years before, but the years that I have known you now, it's been awesome to watch you grow and to see what you've done with your life. You know, I mean, it's amazing that we're here and able to do such a fun and life-changing event for so many people. You know, we're able to impact a lot of people, and without you, it wouldn't have been possible. So
thanks,
keep
bro.
doing what you're doing. You know. Before you get all teary-eyed, we got a show to do. Okay,
Man, okay. I just can't.
So today, Hillary, we have a very special guest. This is somebody that has been very instrumental in my life, and I know I've said that about some of the other guests that we've had on, but he is somebody that really took me under his wing, and really got me on that transitional period. He's a person that finally, took that risk with me, if you will, in early sobriety. Him and his partner back in the day, Mike Netherton, were true mentors. And I really owe it to them for me turning that leaf. I would honestly say it was between, for sure, him and potentially Mike that really got me into that next phase. They pushed me over the edge into getting into recovery because, as you know, with my life, my disease took me to such deep places of not even wanting to live anymore. And they actually gave me a hope and an aspiration at life again. And Paul, it's just so amazing that you're here. I mean, you've been a very good friend for so many years. We do a Bible study together. We've stayed connected. But it's just an honor to have you on here. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. It's special to have you here, and I think
special to be here.
Looking through the lens that I went through and to see where we're at today, it's cool. We have a friendship of what, 12 years now?
Decade, over a decade ago.
So,
yeah.
Well, dude, enough about me and you. Let's talk about you. Let's bring this to you. The first thing I do want to know about though is Paul, where did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to be a carrot farmer, as my young son Dean would say. I don't think I ever can remember a time where I specifically wanted to be something or someone. I've had a personality where, like a chameleon, where it's changed depending on the time frame, depending on the circumstances. I've wanted to be a lot of different things.
Right.
But the nice thing is today, I don't want to be anybody else. I want to be who I am. I want to do what I do. So that I feel I've been blessed.
So did you have that at a young age, though, that inadequacy of identifying who you were and what you wanted to be? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I don't think it was so much inadequacy as I just kind of blew with the wind. My peers influenced me, the people I surrounded myself with. There were times I wanted to be like my dad. There was times I wanted to be a police officer. There was times I wanted to be a scientist. There were times that I didn't want to be anything at all. So I think it's just, like I said, I just, kind of was a chameleon. It just depended on the situation I was in. As I got older, when I was a teenager,
Right.
I do remember feelings of inadequacy and uncomfortability, and my skin started to break out. And I remember being painfully sensitive about what others thought about me. And I remember being just almost tortured in social situations. That came around, I don't know, call it the teenage years.
Was there something that happened to trigger that?
No, I think it was just being a teenager. And, I think in my family system, we didn't really talk about feelings too much. I like to say my dad was a perfectionist and my mom was emotionally unavailable. So that set me up to really learn how to take care of myself.
Right.
So I didn't have I had awesome parents. Don't get me wrong. They provided wonderful things for me throughout my life and were there for me. But emotionally, they were not so much there for me. So I had to kind of figure it out on my own.
And how did that, we hear that a lot with a lot of people having, again, as I know your parents, they're incredible people, but also at a young age, not having that emotional availability, right? How did that really, where did that end up leading you?
When I picked up that first drug or drink, it was a huge relief.
Yeah.
Right? Let's talk about that. Share that with us.
Well, I remember, if you want to get into details, I remember it vividly at the time. I think I was 15. I remember a friend of mine, Brian was his name, and we went over to his house in Solana Beach, and we went upstairs to his bedroom, and he pulled out of his closet an Old English 800 malt liquor. And I remember it had this red label and this golden, liquid inside of it. And we took the top off and started drinking from it. And I remember the feeling that I got, which was really a sense of relief.
Right. How old were you?
I want to say 14, 15, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking to myself, I want to do this again.
Right.
I want to do this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that, I'm not sure everybody reacts that way when they take their first drink or drug. I hear addicts and alcoholics say that they do, but I think for us and for me specifically, it was just this enormous weight was lifted.
Well, I think that you bring up a very fascinating point, because I remember the first time that I had prepared to get hammered or whatever it was, but I was terrified. So I didn't have that aha moment.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, again, that's what I always thought. I thought everybody had. I'm like, I'm not an alcoholic. I never had that. This takes away everything.
Yeah.
But, over the course of time, obviously, it ended up doing that.
Yeah.
And it took away all those emotions and feelings I did not want to feel anymore. So no, that's interesting, Paul, to see, so let's hear a little bit more, because again, as I want to make sure we focus on solution with this, but, so going through that phase of being a chameleon, where did this end up taking you?
Well, I think back and for a while it was, skateboarding, and then I was surfing and a lot of board sports. I remember, early days of snowboarding when the skiers would heckle us on the hills, and didn't want the snowboarders there. And you had to go to specific resorts where they allowed snowboarding, and same thing as a skater, on the streets or ramp skating. So a lot of board sports,
right?
Everything from wakeboarding to surfing to skateboarding, snowboarding. So that was my identity for quite some time. And then as I got a little bit older in high school, I remember my junior and senior year, I ended up aligning myself with some other young adults at the time that we really got into literature.
Right.
So we got into French literature and just different existential literature, and got into the Beat generation. And so I started to immerse myself in a lot of this literature and way of thinking that aligned with atheism and agnosticism, existentialism. And so that parlayed beautifully with addiction.
Wow.
Because, if you're an atheist or, you're an existentialist, it's only in the moment that matters. And there's not a greater purpose in life other than that, living your greatest self at this very moment.
Right.
And so why not check out into oblivion? And so that really catapulted me into some of the harder drugs.
That was your fast forward button right there.
Yeah, right there. Because, I smoked some marijuana, tried some acid, drank we switched over to Mickey's malt liquor. That was a little bit better than the Old English. But
Mickey Green.
So that was, on the weekends after school when we could. But, that kind of philosophical, like existential crisis that I had as an older teenager lended itself well to the harder drugs because we just didn't care. And we would experiment with anything and everything.
So when you went from drinking that first Old English, right? When you said roughly 14 years old, I mean, from there, it didn't really was it a problem up until that age of when you started getting into that deep literature and when it hit fast forward? Because it sounded like there was about a 4-year gap, right?
Well, I wouldn't say I didn't think it was a problem.
You're experimenting, right? And I think there's an experimental phase of when you're, I think I
could stop. I didn't wake up. I wasn't brown bagging it.
Yeah.
I was waiting until after school or till the weekend to drink. So, and I still played soccer. I still went to school. I still skateboarded and did all these things. So at that point in my life, the drinking was more recreational.
So when did you start doing drugs and what kind of drugs did you do?
So that started probably around 17, 18. And it started with, meth and cocaine. And that was experimental. I'm not a big uppers guy.
Let me experiment some meth, bro. At 17, 18. I like that. Good toss. Good toss.
It was, I tried some cocaine. I tried some pills. I tried some methamphetamine. What really got interesting was when I tried the opiates. Because, see, I loved alcohol. I loved the downer. And then heroin kind of took it to the next level. So I resisted the temptation for some time. I had a few friends that were, doing heroin. And I said, that's a little too serious for me. Sticking a needle in your arm. I think I'll stick to my malt liquor. But eventually curiosity got a hold of me and the circumstances aligned. And I tried that. And
we're again, knowing your parents again, and I think this is a kind of trying to bring this full circle for everybody, is where were the parents as this was going on though? Because I know your parents I know they were emotionally available and your dad was a perfectionist, but they also were a part of your life. I mean, so where was this piece with them?
I think my parents' relationship at that time was extremely strained. My father was moving away from relationship with my mother. And my mother was engulfed in her own life and the things that she liked to do. And so, the parenting wasn't very present. It's a nice way to put it.
Did they end up getting divorced?
Yes, they did. By the time I was 21. And I think my addiction kind of fed into that as well. But I think my parents probably held on because I have 2 brothers. I have a younger brother and an older brother. So, I'm a parent now. I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. And like, I could understand the mentality of, maybe they weren't head over heels and infatuated with each other and really experiencing strong relationship, but they hung in there for the kids. I can understand
being
that.
your parents.
I think that went on for like 10 years with my parents.
But obviously, again, you're very, we're all, as alcoholics and addicts, very sensitive and emotional, but I also think we're very privy to what's going on around us. So that obviously directly impacted you.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So as you were going along in your disease, so you're still functioning, experimenting, doing your stuff. Can you tell our listeners the progress of the addiction, the alcoholism, and get to that place of that moment of clarity and like how bad it got, and then to that place of, whoa, I need help?
Yeah. So I got turned on to heroin around 18 and I was pretty high functioning. School's always come easy to me. And so I could maintain my heroin addiction. And by that, it was only within a few weeks that I was a daily heroin addict. And I like speedballs. So you mix a little cocaine in the spoon, draw up that heroin, and black tar Mexican heroin. We're on the West Coast. So I'm shooting speedballs. And I'm still in college, and so I'm up in Portland, Oregon. I'm in college. I maintained for a couple years, you know, but eventually it got to the point where I didn't go to class at all, didn't show up for life, didn't answer my parents' phone calls. And so, you know, I think my dad showed up after going dark for several months and found me living in a basement, and I was really strung out. I was, you know, probably 110 pounds. I'm about 180 pounds naturally. And just said, holy crap, we got to get you some help. Wow. Right. And even after that, my parents tried to get me some help and it didn't stick. I went to a detox or two, even went to a 30-day treatment. And I was like, no, thanks, not for me. And so I continued to use. So I'm completely out of college by that point. I'm say, I don't know, 21. And then I'm really on the dark side, living in strange places, in different cities, and just kind of living. I mean, a heroin addict, what a really good heroin addict does is they lose everything and they wake up every morning and they find themselves in this position where in order to survive, they have to get well. So you figure out some type of a hustle to get more money, to get more drugs. So whether I was stealing, drug dealing, you know, hanging out with the wrong crowd, hustling, that was my life for several years. And I think the moment of clarity came when I was on the streets of Phoenix and I was in some really sordid neighborhoods. And there were other heroin addicts there with me, and they were great people who had found themselves in this really bad spot. And I'm talking about, you know, they had previous lives. You know, they were in their 40s or 50s. I'm in my 20s. These people had been police officers, school teachers, and now they were prostitutes and junkies and living on the streets of Phoenix and living that lifestyle day to day. How do I get high? And I said to myself, you know, I just had this epiphany where I was like, this really isn't going anywhere.
Right.
Like, I have one of two options. I can continue on and live this lifestyle, or I can, you know, go in a different direction. And so that's what I decided to do, and woke up one day and just dropped that lifestyle and never looked back. And actually came out here to Orange County and checked into a halfway house and, you know, got into a program of recovery and got well.
So let me ask you this. So you didn't go to treatment, you just went directly to a halfway house.
Well, at that time it was a treatment center, but what we did, it was a treatment center, like one of the better treatment centers. And so this was the treatment. Okay, here you go. Here's your bed. And by the way, there's no detox drugs. There's nothing at all. It's like, here's your bed. Down at, and it's actually down here in Newport Beach on the peninsula. Here's your bed. You know, let us know if you need any food. There's a fridge, and there's 5 other guys living in this house. It's basically a sober living home. And here's your bike. So they gave me a bike, and they said, you have to go to the 6:30 a.m. recovery meeting, and the noon recovery meeting, and then in the evening recovery meeting. And on Tuesday and Thursday, you're going to sit with this guy named Jim Nugent, and we're going to have a feelings group. We're going to talk about our feelings twice a week. And I was like, okay. And that's what I did.
Wow.
And so if you call that a treatment center, sure, that was a treatment center at the time.
And then so you had to kick.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Brutal. And how long did you end up staying down at that treatment program?
It was about 3 months. And then, you know, I got a little
How
place.
old were you?
Oh, 22, 23.
Wow.
And so, yeah, got a little place after that and worked some odd jobs.
So is that when your life really transformed into wanting to focus on solution now? Is that what was that the pivot point in transitioning into, you know, really obtaining and sustaining a life in recovery?
Yeah, it was. I mean, that at that time, I would have done anything not to be a heroin addict anymore. Right. You could have told me, you're going to stand on that curb over there and you're going to flip a sign for people to find the taco shop. And that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And I would have said, okay, great. I'll do that. anything but what I was doing before. So I kind of reached that point where it was, I just knew I couldn't live that way anymore.
So you really, you got to a place of surrender.
Total surrender.
And willingness and, wanting to take, direction. And I think I want to bring up a point here is because you're somebody that's so well-versed and so educated on this. If people are in a place where they're really battling, knowing that obviously there's no such thing as recreational use of heroin, of meth, of drinking a bottle of vodka every day, whatever it may be. If they're in that place, what would your advice be to them? Because I think a lot of us as addicts and alcoholics, we know that we're there. You know what I mean? I don't think, normies don't ever question, I probably shouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? It's like, for those that are there, what would your advice be to them?
I would encourage them to reach out for help. Reach out. The beautiful thing about, recovery today is, back then I remember looking up for help in the yellow pages. I'm dating myself a little bit, but nowadays you can go online and you can Google, you can go to a recovery meeting. There's hundreds and thousands of recovery meetings. So, when you're in that place, there's all of us who are in recovery want to help. We want to go the extra mile. So,
is there something though, like because I 100%, and I also think you got to get to a certain spot. You have to have a certain amount of willingness to take that step. Is there? I'm trying to just think for those people that are in it though, because reach out for help, but I agree with that, and there is a lot of different solutions to that. But is there any like words of encouragement maybe that you could share?
Well, there's a better way to live.
Yeah.
I think that it's hard, obviously, because I had to be so, take it to such the depths that I did, right? If I had have only known how good life can be, I don't think I would have taken it that far. But when you're in it and when you're accustomed to that, drinking and using lifestyle, you have no idea how good your life can be.
Right.
And so, don't sell yourself short. I had a friend of mine that would tell me, because, it's not, for me, it wasn't just like somebody flipped the switch and I got sober.
Correct.
There was a period of time where I put together a little bit of time and go back out, and a friend of mine would say, you're selling yourself so short. It's like you come and you get a couple days sober and you eat that cherry on top of the sundae. You're not enjoying the rest of the sundae.
Yeah.
And so I think for people that are stuck in addiction, they just have no idea how good life can be. They have no idea what the rest of the sundae will taste like. And so don't sell yourself short, hang in there. And really give it a try, because it is hard. It's going to be a daily. You mentioned you're 24 years sober now, but in the beginning, it was like 24 hours.
Yeah.
It was like, how am I going to make it through the next hour and not use?
Correct.
So, but you hang in there and it gets better. It gets easier day by day by day.
Tell us about that though. So, and let's go back to you, because again, I want to focus on solution. That 24 hours, we us three sitting here can relate to that. What were those steps that you took to get to a place that you're at today? There's, again, you're also, you've got your law degree, you have a very successful business. But what were those steps that you took to get to there so you could be there?
It's like, just don't focus on the big picture. Just focus on what you have to do right now.
Right.
And there's a lot of people in the recovery that teach that principle, like baby steps. What do I have to do for the next 24 hours or the next hour to get through? And just focus on that. And before you know it, all of a sudden days have passed, weeks have passed, months, years. But in the beginning, it really is just having a game plan for right here, right now, what's in front of you, and that's how to, that's what somebody would tell you. I've never climbed Mount Everest, but I've heard people talk about it, and it's that one step at a time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've tackled some big projects in my life, is you just start baby steps. It sounds silly, but it's just like baby steps.
Yeah. So tell us, I didn't know you had a law degree, so that's amazing. And I can see that you're married. He knows all this, but I don't. I'm as new as the people listening to all of this, but tell us some of the gifts you've gotten Like you're now in your founder and CEO of Northbound, which I know Jason has been affiliated with. So I'd love to hear some of these great gifts that you have.
Yeah, well, as I think about it, the greatest gift, because when I was, stuck in that,
Cycle.
existential like crisis as a teenager, I had 6 really close friends. 3 of them are dead from overdose. Okay, so my biggest gift in sobriety is helping other people get clean and sober. And I do that through, when I can, mentoring other people on an individual level. But, I did that for a number of years as a counselor too. I was a counselor and I was able to work with a caseload of 10 to 15 people. And I helped guide them over the course of a couple years in recovery, in school, in life. But now I have a treatment center, right? So I always, when I finally got sober and found that purpose, that true place I wanted to be in life, and like I mentioned earlier, I today feel like I'm not supposed to be anyone else or be anywhere else. I'm supposed to be right here, right now. Like that's the biggest gift, that I know I can wake up each day and I'm not supposed to be doing anything else. I have everything I could possibly want and then more. I've been given so many gifts. The fact that I can have a wife and 2 beautiful sons, and that I have a thriving business and a treatment center, and I get to come down here and sit with Jason and be in relationship and be friends and meet a wonderful lady like yourself today. I mean, that's just life. I get to experience life. That's the biggest gift. I'm present. I'm here, right now. Like, what else could you possibly want? I don't know. And the law degree, the business, those are just things. We all chase things. We all chase like, and that's like the law degree is like the perfect example. I've never practiced law. It was torture. I don't recommend law school to anybody, but I had to do that for myself because I thought, once I get that, then I'm complete. And I got that and I wasn't complete. Being complete is being present in the moment and enjoying your life and showing up for it.
Yeah.
So, you have all these things when you get sober and responsibilities, but the best part is just to be able to not be focused on whatever it is, especially not that next fix. Because I didn't live my best self when I was in my addiction. I compromised my values. I compromised who I am. I hurt people. I stepped on other people to get where I needed to go as a result of my addiction. I don't ever want to live like that.
I think that's a beautiful thing. I think one of the greatest gifts that you were able to obtain through your sobriety was getting to know you, and be comfortable with you. I think that's one of my favorite gifts. That is, man. I love it. Well, look, there's so much we could talk about with you. And I mean, you have such an incredible story, but if you were to leave our listeners today with one thing, if for an action for the day, what would that be?
Be in the moment. And if you need help, ask for it, pray for it. I mean, even if you don't understand God, ask something outside of yourself for help.
Out of your hell. Yeah. Ask for something outside of your hell.
Out of your hell.
Come on.
I love it.
That is so great. What a powerful story. And I'm just so honored to meet you. And can you tell our listeners where they can find you? And about your, where the facility is, where they can find you, what's going on.
Yeah.
I live in San Clemente, California.
What's your sign?
My address is... So I'm the CEO of Northbound Treatment Services. We're right here in Southern California, northboundtreatment.com. If you want to talk to us and if you want to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to you as well. My email address is paulalexander7@yahoo.com.
Boom.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and I'm always like, part of my duty to myself and other people is anytime anyone asks for help, I'm there to try and to give back.
No, we appreciate everything that you do, man. You've been instrumental in my life. You've been instrumental in thousands of people's lives, and keep doing what you're doing. And we're grateful that you came on today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.